Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's live Matcha with Me featuring Kristina Browning, host of the Home, Space, and Reason podcast. If you have not heard her podcast yet, it is an intellectual podcast where each episode highlights questions that challenge you to think of your space differently, to get the most out of every square foot and improve your space so you can have less friction around function. You are creating the framework for your life, so it's worth considering what lights you up. How does your home impact your health and happiness? Does your home reflect and enhance your personalities and passions? She asks questions that challenge you to think of your space differently. Now, does that sound familiar? What do we do here on this Elemental Clarity YouTube page? We look at feng shui and we reframe our relationship with our home. So, as I pull her up here, let me add her to the screen. Hello, Kristina. Let's elaborate a little bit on how we met, or I'll elaborate a little bit on how we met. When I first started this business, I was looking to spread the word of the wonderful feng shui, how it works, and all of the health, wealth, and happiness the tool can bring to everybody. And so, how do you spread the word about your business these days? You go on podcasts, and I was looking for podcasts that were aligned with also encouraging people to reevaluate their relationship with their home. We live in our homes all day, every day. They recharge us. And sometimes we just like forget that we have this thing we're living among. So I was looking for other podcasts that really reframed our relationship with our home. I found Home Space and Reason. And here we are. Also, then I ended up on her podcast and she ended up feng shuiing. So how are you, Kristina? How's everything going? Are you excited to be here today?
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
It's been a delight seeing what you do mixed in with what I do and sort of getting like shooken up in a glass. And it's really been a magical experience. One thing you didn't mention, we've been working together for almost a year now.
I know.
That's wild.
It is wild. Which is why, so actually, that's a great segue into a few announcements for everybody. In a couple of weeks, we are going to be, and everybody, you guys know I look at my notes here so I don't ramble. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be sharing her feng shui transformation. So there will be a video out. Go ahead, and here's your reminder to subscribe and hit the notification bell now so you're ready for this before and after video that comes out about Kristina's home. There's going to be really cool shots. I'm going to be interviewing her, just asking her about her experience, what she thought about feng shui, what surprised her, how quickly she saw results. Did she see results? So that video is coming out in a couple of weeks. And it's going to be great hearing from you because it's been a while. And feng shui, it layers its energy, it layers on top of itself. Too much change at once creates chaos. So I'm actually really excited to talk to you a year later and hear how that goes. And then in the second announcement is she's also going to have, so I mentioned, you guys just saw she has a podcast. She's going to have a podcast episode out sooner than later, potentially before the YouTube, we don't know yet, but it's coming. And that's going to be really, you might think, well, if I watch the before and after video, I don't need to listen to the podcast. And absolutely not. After you hear her presentation today and you hear her perspective of how she frames questions and asks these questions that give you aha moments, you're going to want to listen to the podcast and her perspective as well, because it's going to be a totally different way of hearing about feng shui and how it helps the home. And so then today, speaking of ahas, this is what we're going over today, everybody. This is the itinerary. She's going to be asking questions. We're going to be talking about questions like, do I have the right home for me? Does my home reflect my personality and passion? Does my home make me feel easy and relaxed, or does it maybe make me feel more anxious and stressed? Am I using my square footage to its highest potential? And then we're not going to leave you guys hanging in this like crazy state of like, oh crap, yeah, I hate my home, I'm stressed out. We're not going to do that to you. Then we're going to give you solutions and some action items, or just we're going to leave you in an upgraded state, upgraded feeling. You're going to get excited about your home, and you're actually going to be excited to apply some of these solutions. And then we're going to end on a high note, even more with a little game. And we need everybody to participate, even if you're catching the replay. So you can type and I'll show you guys what the game is at the end, but you can type in the comments section here to participate in the game. And then on the replay, you guys can comment in the comments. So that's our itinerary for today. Kristina, take it away.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for
Mhm.
having me. As you mentioned, little notes here. In my podcast, Home Space and Reason, I post questions for you to think through about your space and your reason. And because of that, those of you joining us today might want to grab a pen and a paper, because I'll be asking questions and you might want to write them down to think on about your own space and your reason. So it's really proactive. So the Environmental Protection Agency reports that the average American spends 87% of their life indoors. If you're indoors 87% of your life, that means what's happening in your home is very important. And that includes how it functions, how you feel in the space, and whether it brings you frustration and stress or pleasure and support. So I wanted to start out with two key questions. First, do I have the right home for me? And this includes, do I have flex space? So flex space morphs into the use you want and need when you need it. It can change function as you need it to without needing to buy a different house. Super important. Space neutrality is important because what might have been called a guest room in 1994 should now be called flex space. Why? Because it needs to accommodate what you need in your life, which changes as you age. So flex space doesn't have to be a room with 4 walls. It can be a corner, it can be half a space. Let me explain with some examples. Perhaps when your son is 6, it's an art room. When he's 13, it's a gaming space. And when he moves out, it's your library and den. Or maybe your parents are aging and need care, so it's a bedroom for them while they live with you. Or maybe it becomes a yoga space for your physical therapy. Spaces shouldn't exist within the confined labels that you have them if they're not being used in that way. So if you have a guest room, for example, set up with a bed and you don't ever have guests, that's a problem. I feel like you should rethink that, right? If you have a home with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and there's a whole giant chunk of space that you're not using, I mean, that's a thing for a lot of people. You would be amazed how many people's homes I go into to sell, and they're like, I need more space. And I'm thinking, this entire formal dining room doesn't even look like it's ever been touched, but you want to go buy a bigger house? So I think that's really fascinating, thinking about, am I really using all the bits? That makes sense.
Yeah. If you I did a whole video here on YouTube about transforming my dining room space. So everybody knows I moved into my grandmother's home, which is and I've been upgrading it, updating it, taking people along the way. And she had this whole other section of her house that was like this beautiful sunroom. It got all the light in the afternoon. And then she had this center space that was like acting as this hallway. And I was like, wait, I never sit at the dining room that's been placed in this sunroom. So I made it a sunroom. So anyway, everybody can go watch that video. But I moved the dining room table to a position space, and so that I could actually use and enjoy all the sunlight in this what was tertiary space, right? I rearranged it all, yes, because I saw a big gap. And her house had been like that for 45 years. If I had come over and she listened, she could have maximized her space more.
Totally. I mean, I think formal dining rooms are honestly the biggest offender. Some families use them, some families don't. One area for eating together nowadays is usually enough, especially if you have a table that has the addition, you can like add leaves to it and expands for special occasions. I love myself some multi-purpose furniture, okay? Like ottomans with storage, tables that expand or fold down, bean bags for kids that actually hold their stuffed animals inside. Like, yes, please. I'm a fan. Wise use of space. I love those sorts of comment or products so much.
Yeah, and we also have a comment here that says, "That's me so much I don't use and I feel I need more space." Or that's me, so much space I don't use. So, yes,
100%.
it resonates.
You're not alone. I see this all the time, all the time. So I'm a realtor and a home functionality coach. So I'm going in people's homes all the time, whether it's to um, either list the house or we're looking for their next one. And I constantly hear, well, this is why we're moving. And sometimes it's because we don't have enough space. And it's interesting to see how they're using the space in the home that they're in. And that's kind of how I morphed into becoming a home functionality coach in addition to a realtor. They go hand in hand because I'm in spaces reevaluating how much they're being used. And if you're telling me you need more space for this other particular thing, but you're not using this space at all, why can't we just take out the chandelier and put in some beautiful doors, maybe glass doors, but just that closes that area off, and it can become a whole different thing, flex space for whatever it is that you need. I think that's so important.
Mhm.
So the second overarching question that I have is, does my home reflect our personalities and passions? And this is a huge deal. Does this home make space to accommodate the things that we love most? For example, if you love, love, love to bake, do you have a kitchen that supports that? Or maybe you love to bake, but you have a home with a big yard and you hate to be out there. Like the list, the scrolling list, you want to bake, but you feel like you should be taking care of the lawn. It's too much. You're always behind. There's weeds, there's weeds, there's weeds. Maybe it's because your home isn't focused in the same areas that you're focused. So if you love to bake and you hate yard maintenance, you should have a low maintenance yard or yard help and a fantastic oven. You feel me? Like, think about the things that light you up and the things that you dread and sort of realign your home based on that. So you should be thinking about the person and people that live there first and then adjusting your home to that.
Mhm.
So you should have someone helping you with the lawn maintenance. You should have lots of natural light in your kitchen, good storage in your kitchen. So you're helping yourself to not focus on the yucky yard maintenance that you don't like. And you're increasing and elevating your experience in your kitchen, if that makes sense.
I love that. So everybody, now's a great time. Comment below what lights you up in your home. What's a priority for you in your home? What's that thing that you just love most about your home that is the focus?
Yes. So removing the rub in the areas that you loathe and giving yourself more luxury in the areas that fill your soul is the key here. It's kind of a two-part situation.
Mm.
A great question to ask is, what's important to me? Like, don't even involve your house in it. Like, what
Mm.
what do I love? I love
Okay.
I love growing flowers. Okay. Am I in a house with a bit of land that supports that? Or maybe I love brewing kombucha. Great. You'll need a darker spot where your vats can sit and brew. You'll need storage space for your supplies, fridge space for your finished product. And maybe that even means a whole extra fridge in your garage or something like that. So when you really work through all the bits of what it is that you love, then you can pose that question to your house. Is this house supporting that? And if not, what changes can I make to enable that, to support that?
Amazing. What a Portland question, the kombucha brewers. I don't think anybody in Cleveland's brewing kombucha. They might not know what kombucha is yet. Although that's not true. I drink some here. They got
I
it.
brew kombucha.
Oh, I love it so much.
The other thing that I think is important is to notice how you feel when you're in spaces out in the world. So when you're out in the world, those places that you walk into and you linger, you notice the scents in the air, you slow down, everything's dialed in, and you're like, I love this restaurant so much. Why? Why do you love it? Because, first of all, they're that way by design. But secondly, if you can pay attention to what it is that you like about it, perhaps that's some cues, some notes that you can take to incorporate into your own home. Like if you're in your house 87% of the time, isn't it worth paying attention to how you feel in that space and maybe emulate some of your most favorite spaces out in the world in your own home? So again, it's posing questions. Why do I love this space? Is it the colors? Is it the energy? Is it the feng shui? Like super important. Why does this space resonate with me? Why does it resonate with my husband? Why does it resonate with my bestie? Whatever, like feel it out. Write down all the things. Big windows, dark wood, whatever it is that you're vibing with. I think treating it like you're a student and studying the space can be so advantageous, because then you literally can walk away and say, while you're standing in your own house, okay, how could I incorporate those things here? Like it's really important to take notice, but then take the next step. These are the things that I love about this space. How can I incorporate those things in my own home?
Amazing.
You can create spaces that encourage you to slow down and have more conversations with your family. If you maybe your goal is to be more active, if you have a giant, cushy, restful, awesome couch and no place to be active, then what you're doing subtly is encouraging yourself to lay on the couch more and discouraging being active. So it's those little tiny cues. If you make being active more easy, the chances of you being more active more often increase.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing. Now, okay, so many things. One, that's such a good question. I'm going to end up pausing and like rewinding and hearing that, because so much of the feng shui stuff we won't go into at the moment is, yeah, how are you aligning your energy with the space? But even if you don't know the feng shui, like, yeah, what's the space encouraging you to do? And is it subtly encouraging you to be less active? Now, Kristina, really quick, is this a good time to pull up your graphic as you ask about these, or will you be referring to it later?
I'm going to refer to it in a minute.
Okay, great. You just tell me when, but keep going. That was an amazing point.
Wonderful. So another way, I'm a big fan of questions and posing questions, because there's no wrong answer. It's unique to each person, but it's important to ask yourself those questions and then be aware of what your answers are. So another way to think of this is, are there spaces for each person to become the best versions of themselves and or to pursue their passions? So you can stand in any room and ask yourself, am I using my square footage to its highest potential? And if my passion is reading, for example, and I'm standing in the living room, have I taken that into consideration? Do I have a super comfy chair that I could sit in for a really long time and great reading light right there that supports that activity? So that is my reading space, my Zen space for reading, supporting that piece of me that I'm wanting to do more of, wanting to honor. Big deal. Like,
big deal.
It's one thing to say I love reading. It's yet another to really think it all the way through.
Yeah, because when will you do it? When will you follow through with it?
Exactly. And if you haven't set up your space to support you and your passions, it's not likely that you're going to have that repeat experience. Spontaneity is fantastic, but you have to set up your space so that you can spontaneously sit down and spend 15 minutes often reading.
Right.
So
If you don't have a comfortable chair, I just had a feng shui client actually. She needed more metal on her patio, and so she wanted to get like this. We all know the metal bistro. It's like really cute, very French, like. But she wanted to spend more time on her patio. She wanted to get that, and before she bought it, I said to her, "Yeah, but like, do you think you'll actually read and journal in this chair? It's super tiny. It's not comfortable looking." So, same thing. Feng shui aside, does it function to support your reading passion? If it's not comfortable, you're not going to be spending more time out there.
100%. You're
Yeah,
right. And so maybe she needs a lounger where she can lean
right.
back a bit and her feet can go up, because then you're going to spend an hour there.
Right. She didn't end up buying it. She's like, "You're right. I wouldn't."
So important.
So
I
important.
saw a table, for example, that I love so much. I wish I had a picture of it. I saw it on social media, where the whole top lifted off and under it was a 2-inch tray. So, like, it was a table, and then there was a little gap, 2 inches, and then there was another like platform right underneath it. And the whole top lifted off, where a puzzle was. So the
Oh,
family could work on it as they had time. And then when they were like, okay, we need to eat dinner or whatever, they just put the top back on. It looked like a regular table, the
oh my
table
gosh.
normally. When they felt like working on the puzzle, took the top off, sat around it. Genius. Like,
Genius.
that's honoring the love and passion for puzzles.
Yeah.
And you're using one space for two different things.
Yeah.
You can't have those reoccurring moments of natural spontaneity if your home isn't set up for it. So you have to think about the spaces for the activities that you love to easily happen whenever the mood strikes you, because then you can be spontaneous.
Mhm.
Yeah. Another way to ask the question: if I created a home that allowed me to pull on the threads of my curiosity, where
Mm.
might that take you? Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a really wonderful book. Big, what's it called?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to Google it. I will tell you in a second. But the point is she bought a house that had a flower garden in it, and it led to a whole different book. And it was not a book she would have written, but the topic came to her because the home had this magnificent garden. She
Mm.
was looking up the history of all of these seeds and where they came from. It was a
Oh,
whole
wow.
botanical theme, and it was really fantastic. And she literally says in the book, in her talk that I heard, I would never have come upon doing that book had I not moved into that house and had that house not had this fabulous flower garden. And so
How amazing.
it's fantastic to hear how a house literally influences you. The house isn't alive, but the amenities that it has or doesn't have
Mhm.
totally affect you
Mhm.
every single day.
Well, I would argue as a feng shui consultant, your house is alive.
Oh,
Another video
amen.
for another day.
Oftentimes people don't think about their homes in terms of its influence on their life every day. Maybe
Mhm.
you love baths, but you're not even in a house that has a bathtub.
Right.
I mean, or you love reading, but you haven't given your space a spot to do it in.
Mhm.
It's, if it's not easy or easy-ish, it probably won't happen. The flip side of the coin, though, is to identify areas where you have frustration, like, for example, recognizing you lose your keys several times a week and fixing that. So the fix would be, in this hypothetical scenario, creating a space right by the door where you come in and go out to handle your things.
Mm.
Give yourself a place for your keys to hang so they don't get thrown on the counter under a pile of mail. Or better yet, a whole entryway system with like key hooks, a mail bin, mask hook, sunglasses spot, purse hook, all the things. if you think about what you need on a daily basis and you design an entry space to handle that, you'll remove the frustration from your daily life. And then when you address each frustration one baby step at a time, eventually you're going to come to a point where things work like a well-oiled machine without you even thinking about it. You no longer lose your keys. You have a spot where your mail goes so it doesn't land on the counter anymore, and therefore your kitchen counter stays more clean. Or your sunglasses don't get scratched because you have a spot where they hang right by the door. So there's two angles to what I'm talking about: removing problems in spaces and then adding in spaces for activities that fill your soul.
Love it.
So this is the point where I wanted to introduce the 6 lenses. And I
Great.
know you said you could pop that up to
Mm-hmm.
ask questions about your space and your reason.
Whoops, sorry, everybody. Go ahead. There you go.
Yay. So this is the wonderful graphic that I use often. And when I walk into a space and we're really dissecting a space, I like to look at it through all of these lenses. So pick one room. Maybe it's the room that gives you the most anxiety. You're feeling more uncomfortable in there. Maybe it's even the laundry room. I hate laundry. I suck at laundry. Maybe it's the laundry room. You can tick through each of these things and ask yourself questions about your space and your reasons. So let's just use the laundry room, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If we start in the upper left hand corner, you'll see aesthetics and furniture choices. Well, a laundry room, if you're lucky enough to even have a dedicated space for it, usually doesn't have much furniture in it. But take a look at what's there, and is it handling the things that you need in a quick and easy way? So your aesthetics and your furniture choices come into play. Does it feel good while I'm in there? And does the cabinetry or whatever is right near it handle things I use most? And are those things at accessible level? If you have your soap on the very top shelf, does that make any sense? Maybe that's one reason why you hate it, right? Yeah. Or if it's too cluttered, if there's too much stuff, the organization gold shape could be
Mm-hmm.
what's making you crazy about this space, because you can't think clearly. It doesn't function well because there's too much crap in the space. So that would
Fair.
be the time when we can pare things down and start thinking about it through that lens. Organization and the one next to it, counterclockwise ability to edit, kind of go hand in hand, and that's why they're next to each other. So it's important to think about, when is the last time I used this thing? If your answer is 3 years ago or 10 years ago, or there's so much dust on it that it's embarrassing, maybe it's time to get rid of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability to pare down and really think about, do I need this? I love the whole get rid of one thing a week idea. Find something in your house to get rid of, because that really makes the ability to edit square or shape
Mm-hmm.
more digestible. If you're tackling a huge, big project, it can get overwhelming and life can get in the way. But if you just tell yourself, I'm going to get rid of one thing a week in this laundry room, you're going to come to a point where the laundry room is easier to get around in. It functions better.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing around the circle: automation, habits, and hacks. What are my laundry habits? Do I even need clothes baskets? Here's something that's fascinating. I became a rock star at laundry when I moved into my most recent home in 2015, never having been a rock star at laundry before. I noticed that we were not using laundry baskets. They were taking up space. I literally got rid of all of the laundry hampers, left the laundry lid open. Dirty clothes go straight into the washer. When it's full, whoever puts the last bit in, they're like, oh, it's full. They run it. Once it's run, it goes into the dryer. Once it's in the dryer, it comes out and goes into one laundry basket that then gets dumped onto a made bed, forcing us to put away the clothes before we go to sleep that night. So that rhythm works for us. We also don't have any dry cleaning going on. We don't have any work shirts. We don't do a lot of whites, so we don't have to separate stuff. It works for us really well. And that rhythm was definitely part of habits. Automation can come into play if you have a smart home system and you're not remembering to do the laundry. Perhaps you could set it up to where every Tuesday and Friday, you know who asks you, don't forget to do the laundry. You can set up a reminder on your smart home system if that's your thing. So identifying where you're, again, that's why this exists, is to ask yourself, could I fix a problem, or could I help myself with an automation, a hack, or changing my habit differently? Ability to identify sources of friction. So if you suck at laundry, using the same example, why? Is it because you have 17 children? I mean, and then so kind of work from the issue and dissect it backwards. And a lot of times this chart can help you think of it in terms of, where are my hangups and what could I tweak one baby step at a time? And then ask yourself, does this feel easier? Does this feel better? Is this working? Floor plan. Can I get to my laundry machine? Is this working? Do I have to dodge around stuff? Is it, functioning for me in the best way possible? Less has to do with a laundry room, more has to do with like a living room. Do I have enough space in between the couch and the hallway to easily get through? Maybe there's too much furniture and the furniture is too big, so we don't even go in there. It's the wrong proportion for the space. So this is a chart that I use really universally, because you can really ask yourself some good questions about your space in all of these areas and make small tweaks based on these topics, I guess. In my home functionality podcast, each episode is about whole categories. So if let's say you're fixating on the laundry, I have a whole podcast just on laundry. So that's how mine works. So like I have one just on bathrooms. I have one on creating spaces for kids. I have one just on plants. And on and on and on. I have a whole podcast just on hardwoods, laminates, carpet, or vinyl. I mean, I can geek out on micro topics. If it has to do with your home and yard, I'm your gal.
Yeah.
But we kind of come at it in not an HGTV angle, but more, let's ask important questions and make these spaces better. So
definitely. And that's what this graphic is, right? So as you were saying that, can I chime in really quick, and I'll tell you what came to my mind. So with automation, habits, and hacks, so like I just mentioned, let's go to this view. I was in a 750 square foot apartment in Dallas, moved into a home that had been lived in for 45 years. Most of it's not even my stuff, right? So I'm loving this new experience and like all of these new ideas, that seeing how people really could forget about how big their home is, seeing the different questions people probably maybe don't ask themselves but should, and because I'm so hyper aware, I do ask myself these questions. But something that came to mind with the automation, habits, and hacks and floor plan, like this is a big house, and I am often like, it was just funny. I want to revisit how you said, if you're misplacing your keys, like I need to get in an automation of, where do I put my pickleball bag? Where do I put, like, because I find myself leaving pickleball stuff in the kitchen table, and then I find my keys over here on the stairs, and then I find and then I'm running to pickleball because my life revolves around pickleball and feng shui at this point, and I'm like, but I can't find my keys and I can't leave now, and then next thing I know, it's 10 minutes later. So I definitely need to look at these automation habits and hacks, particularly, so everybody ask yourself, like, because if you have a larger home and you have a lot of spots, it's definitely, I think habits is a good one to focus on first. And then that floor plan one really resonates as well, because like I said, I basically had this whole third room that wasn't being used. And rather than putting the dining room in the sunroom, I separated it and created two spaces. But when I did that, because she has so much furniture, walking through certain areas was very tight. And I was like, okay, we have to declutter even more. And we need to actually find out, what is this piece of furniture doing? I think this is probably one you have a lot to say about. With feng shui, I say things like, you don't have to buy the matching furniture set. You don't have to buy the bed frame that comes with the two end tables and the dresser and like the extra thing.
As a matter of fact, please don't.
Yeah, please don't. You don't need all of it. And that goes for the
Matchy-matchy.
living room.
Matchy-matchy is not a thing. Episode 20 is all about that.
There you go.
Matchy-matchy is not a thing anymore.
Yeah. So floor plan, right? Proportional furniture. Do you have furniture you don't need? You don't need, just because you see everybody putting a bookshelf in a certain place doesn't mean you need a bookshelf if you don't have any books, and you don't have to fill every square inch of your home.
For sure.
If it doesn't support your passions, what did we talk about? If it doesn't support your passions, if it doesn't help you with the automations, habits, and hacks.
As a matter of fact, episode 9 is just about shelving. And in there, I do talk about a trick about styling where you stick a coffee mug while you're doing your styling. You stick a coffee mug in between chunks of things so that it's solid. At the end, you pull out the coffee mugs and you leave those spaces empty. So
Oh
that
my
you're
gosh.
designing in empty space for your shelving to breathe, so that because our tendencies is to fill. If I have an empty space, I want to put something there.
Right.
Don't.
Well, and after we feng shui, I've said this in countless videos. The most common mistake I see is we make space for energy to flow through, and then people want to refill it. They're like, okay, well, now what do I put there? I'm like, nothing. That was the point. I didn't want anything there because I want energy to hit that part of your kitchen, that part of your living room. I want it to encompass you and flow through your home. So nothing.
Yes. Amen.
But so go listen to that episode on her podcast for those of you who are challenged with leaving space, and she'll help you reframe why it's a good thing.
100%. Big deal. Another thing I wanted to touch on is lighting, because it's huge in home functionality for all of us. So there are 3 categories for lighting: ambient, task, and accent lights. Ambient gives the ambiance, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's generally the way the room is lit. And task lighting is often more focused like in one spot or one area. And then accent lights are used to draw attention to art, or perhaps like a tree if it's outdoors, like in your landscaping. Lighting is everything, because it can make your living room feel cold and unwelcoming, like a surgery suite at a hospital. Or it can make you feel warm and inviting and unassuming, like because the room feels like you want to stay and hang out for long periods of time. It's flattering. Why does everyone look photoshopped? I mean, that's your subconscious responding to the lighting when everybody looks good.
Mm-hmm.
It's best to have several small light sources, ideally with dimmers, rather than one bright light blasting out of the center of the ceiling. So if you have many pockets of warm light, it creates a calm blanket for the entire room. And your goal should be to create these intimate areas of light around the room in at least 3 spots. Maybe it's like 1 floor lamp, 1 table lamp, and 2 sconces. Not all need to be turned on at once, but if they're all on, you can imagine a party in this space, like where people are able to sit and chat and share stories, like the same when you sit around a campfire, for instance. I'm a huge fan of dimmers. It gives you the power to control your lighting for different scenarios. I've walked into homes before and every single light bulb is a bright white LED, no matter the room. And I feel like I'm being assaulted when I walk in. I want to leave. I see every smudge on the switch plates, and I'm only focused on like getting the heck out. I don't see the furniture. I don't see anything beautiful. I'm just aware of how uncomfortable I am. And that's totally lighting. So there's 2 kinds of light: bright, wonderful light because of a large bank of windows. And then there's like uncomfortable light coming from bulbs that are in the wrong spectrum from what you're expecting. So lighting is everything. You should have lighting for relaxing and lighting for tasks, all in the same space. So here's a good question. Do you have lamps, or do you have light only coming down from the center of your ceiling? All your light comes from the ceiling, I would recommend getting a floor lamp or a table lamp or both. It brings the light down physically, but also it's not blasting right into your eyes. It sort of makes it more mellow. Starts in the middle of the room, ideally aims down, or like if you're reading, down. I have 2 candle holders on the wall, either side of my fireplace, with those candles that look real, but they're not. They come on with rechargeable batteries, and they stay on for like 5 hours every night. And it makes the ambiance so exquisite in the winter because it's that warm, glowy goodness. That's another automated thing where you've got lights on timers that come on at just the right time. Color temperature is one of the reasons that smart bulbs are awesome sauce. Instead of buying like a bulb for a specific area or activity, smart bulbs, you can change the color of the light through an app. So warmer, cooler, whatever it is that you need. I will say though, they're not cute. So if you have a lamp with like a glass surround or a lampshade, it's going to be ugly. So maybe not the best choice. But if you need like daylight color to read by, but you don't want to sacrifice like the cozy warm light at night, like in your bedside table, it allows you to change the color to daylight when you're reading, but change it back to a softer, warmer light at night for the ambiance. So super cool. I love smart lights. And now I want to let you in on a little secret of mine for those of you who enjoy houseplants as much as I do. So I have recessed lighting in my living room, and I have 1 bulb in the ceiling on either side of my fireplace, and they are on dedicated light switch, just those 2. And at one point in time, I could not keep a plant alive to save my life. A ton of trial and error. I realized that when I put grow lights in those 2 sockets, my plants became so happy. So let me just say, I have a whole wall of windows right there. So I thought I should have plenty of light for my plants, but I was wrong, because when I made the difference, when I changed those lights to grow lights, they became so much more happy. So not all bright lights are grow lights. So you have to make sure that you get the ones that are actually the same screw-in size as a regular bulb. They will actually be labeled grow light on the packaging. And you have to make sure that the circumference actually fits into your recessed socket. But made all the difference in the world for my plants. So if you have plants that you can't seem to keep alive, grow lights in a light socket, fantastic idea.
Yeah, that's definitely something that comes up a lot with feng shui people. I am maybe the only feng shui consultant in the world who can't keep a plant alive really either. So I'm not the one they come to for plant advice, but a lot of people, yeah, they look for tips on how to keep their plants they think are lucky alive. And this is another great plug for the video that's going to be coming out in a few weeks on Kristina's before and after feng shui experience, where I learned about her plants, and I learned about quite a bit of plants in her living room. So we'll see those healthy plants in the living room, and we'll see what she does with them. So another plug to subscribe and hit the notification bell now so that you guys can watch that transformation and you can see these grow lights she's talking about. And what a great, I'm so happy we did this before that video comes out, right? Because you're also going to look at her home in a way that she's applied all of these things she's talking about. So it'll layer on top of each other perfectly. So head over there or subscribe and hit the notification bell now so you can head over there later and watch that video.
Yes. So lastly, I wanted to chat about night lights. This falls under the automation category. The ones I'm most fond of are called guide lights by a company called Snap Power. You literally replace your electrical outlet, not switch, your electrical outlet with theirs. And built into the bottom of the outlet are tiny little sensors and a night light that comes on automatically when it gets dark. So cool. They draw power directly from the outlet without taking up any space like a traditional plug-in nightlight, like ones that my mother loves, those big chunky things.
Got them all over here.
Yes. You don't have to have those. I like them in the hallway in between the bedrooms and bathrooms so your kids or guests don't have to turn on any lights in the middle of the night to see where they're going. They're also handy in the bathroom for the same reason. When you get up in the middle of the night, you don't want to turn on the huge bright light. You can still see what you're doing. If your outlet in there is one of these kinds of night lights, it's fabulous. They're subtle, tasteful, extremely low on energy usage. I think they cost like 10 cents a year to power each. So cheap. And you install them yourself, so you don't have to have an electrician. They are fabulous. I love them so much. I literally have bought them as closing gifts for my clients before because that's how much I love them. Yeah, they're guide lights by a company called Snap Power. So you can look those up, and I love them so much.
I bet you do give really great closing gifts.
Well, I'm so aware of not giving people stuff that it's just useless stuff that's going to just on a has to be consumable, or try to really pay attention to who I'm gifting to make sure that I'm not gifting a problem.
Yeah, right. I love it.
That's really what I have for you today. And I wanted to make sure that we left time for back and forth and any questions.
And our game.
Yes, and our game.
Yes. So questions right now. I've been watching the comments box. No questions yet, but people are really liking it. We have somebody else here that enjoys doing laundry. And we have somebody else, like we showed earlier, that's indoors 95% of the time. So this has all been very helpful. I know I already spoken some of my aha moments about definitely reworking on some of these automations and habits, because it's a lot of house. It's a lot of house. But let's get into our game. Let me pull it up here. So the game, everybody, and this is going to be perfect because you talked about lighting. There's a picture in here we can elaborate on lighting, and then also the book that you mentioned by, I forgot her name, but how her garden inspired her to write a book. We have some pictures here about the garden. So everybody, here's how the game works. Whether you're watching the replay, whether you're here now, comment in the comments. Comment, I guess it's called comments everywhere. Comment, caption, comment, box, chat, and write which one you vote for. So first, let me click our screen. Okay, so first, here are our 3 polls every Sunday on Instagram. So another plug for Instagram, follow Kristina at Space and Reason. That's her handle. And then mine is, again, Elemental Clarity. Every Sunday I put up these polls. And it's just a fun way to take these questions you've heard from Kristina, take questions you hear from me, and evaluate spaces. It's not your home. You're not picking apart your home. We're looking at other spaces and we're thinking, like, over here, choose your favorite Zen bedroom, choose which garden you love. And it helps you take these questions and look at spaces differently through a different lens. So what we're going to do today, and what we do Sunday, is I put the polls up, people vote. So at the end, I'll show you what won on Instagram. But here, we're going to ask Kristina which one she likes better, what I like better. And then we're going to talk just a little bit about each of them and why. So for the first one, here we go. This is the first one we're going to do. The question would be, do you prefer the more modern garden or do you prefer the more traditional organic garden? So everybody comment which one you like better, A1 or B1. And again, if you're watching the replay, comment which one you like. Kristina, which one do you like better? Which one would you vote for?
Definitely in the A1 category, solidly.
You're solid A1. I'm solid B1. I'm solid B1. So that's perfect. Let's see. Oh, we're going backwards. Let's see, Canva. How would you like to play today? Here we go. Modern one.
Barely, though.
Barely. I did. I picked ones that were pretty close. So modern. Kristina, why do you, or you can have me go first if you want to think about it. Why do you prefer the modern?
Oh, I can tell you, I even in my own yard have a monochromatic scheme. I only have yellow flowers in my yard.
And hammock.
And hammock, yellow chairs, and a yellow modern door on the front. And segueing into that we're going to mention this in our feng shui time together too, because that was a problem.
Yeah.
That I only had simple one color. You're like, it's fire at the front door. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I like the clean and simple. I think the focus is on the fire pit and the space and the experience instead of being, I think lots of color draws your attention all around and it feels very busy to me. So I like the clean lines of the modern top one.
And my favorite thing about these posts is because I'm so into mindset psychology, why people act the way they act. You know, I have all of this feng shui stuff, but I also get into mindset. Oh, and our voter said B1. Our voter in the chat, B1 as well. So I love also analyzing why I think people picked what they pick, and modern for that reason, everything you just said. But the reason I go this way is because I know too much about feng shui and energy. And meandering, feng shui loves meandering. Feng shui loves feng shui. Energy loves. Chi wants to, again, encapsulate. Chi wants to spread through every part of your home, not in strict, stark, sharp angles, right? It wants to like flow and be calm and cool. And so I like the organic. Now I say that in terms of look, but I'm also afraid of bees. So would I have all these beautiful winding paths of flowers? Probably not. But in the picture, I like B1. Okay, so next one. Choose your Zen bedroom. A2. I have a feeling I just went backwards. Canva loves me today. Okay, here we go. In these two pictures, Zen bedroom, choose your Zen bedroom. Vote A2 or B2. Which one do you prefer? Kristina, commenters, let us know.
You know what's interesting is not in this example, but in a post recently, you were talking about people's love for things being the love of symmetry.
Yes.
And I really like the aesthetic of A2, but my mind does not like the fact that it's not even. So I don't know what answer, because I love those wood slats so much in the top. I love the lighting so much in the top. But honestly, I feel like the bottom one is really peaceful. So I don't know that I can even choose. I really want to line stuff up and put more slats on the top one.
I knew this game was going to be so fun with you.
So I don't know.
You have to pick. It's like the show can't go on.
Okay, I'm going to pick the top one.
You're going to go A2.
I'm gonna go A2, but if I stay there and I like, if that's an Airbnb, those things are gonna be centered when I leave in the morning.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm also going A2. I'm also going A2, and I'll elaborate on why. And most people, they chose. I point as if you can see my hand. They all the winner, as you see, is A2, the top picture. And I was a little bit surprised, but again, I purposefully chose this close race. Oh, let's see what our commenters say. B2. So we have a third here. B2 is the winner in the chat for our live. B2. I actually really thought most people were going to go B2. We have the symmetry. People love clean, white, calm. Even though, isn't it funny, most people in their homes don't have anything like that. People love the white, they love the simple, they love the minimal, but then you go into their house and it's got family photos and pictures and this and matching mixed matching quilts and all that stuff. So it's kind of funny but people like are very drawn to this. This is the one I wanted to talk about, lighting. So I actually used to sell lighting. That was my previous job. And I've sold this light fixture before. I know the manufacturer, I know all of it. So I actually love this one simply because I am a lighting geek. This is Vibia Lighting. There's plenty of knockoffs, but Vibia Lighting is a brand I sold and I'm obsessed with it. I typically am this is why I know this one won. This is why I know this one won over this one, because even though most people go simple and minimal, this is a perfect example of feng shui and balancing the elements. It's warmer, even though it's subtle. You have the fire of the dim lighting, you have the wood of the slats, you have the earth of the organic, like cream tones, right? You're adding in this nice smooth play of the elements, and that's why ultimately I think more people ended up going this way. And even why maybe you were slightly drawn to that one, because this is calm and serene, but if you start thinking it from an elements point of view, right, there's not a lot of
There's not a lot of anything going on in there. There's not a lot of personality in that bottom one.
Not a lot of personality. Nope. So I think that's why most people go this way. Or most people, I bet it was close race, right? Okay, so then the last one here, Canva, work for me. Last one here. Choose your Zen bathroom, A3 or B3. So top or bottom, which is your Zen bathroom?
I'm definitely a B3 camp.
B3 camp. I thought about this one was actually kind of tough for me because when I play these games, I take them very seriously. And I really put myself in this space and I really think, how would I use and function in this space? So I am actually, surprisingly, even to me, leaning A3. You lean B3. The winner was, by a landslide, B3.
I will say, though, from a home functionality perspective, cleaning those rocks would not be awesome.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about the cleaning it.
Yeah.
So what led you to B3?
I just am such a huge obsessive person about natural light, and I love all the natural light in the space, especially when you can be in a space and not have any window coverings. I'm a huge fan of just letting the light in. Like, even in our primary bathroom, I don't have any window coverings on our window. I have window film that lets all the light in and still privacy. I think that's so important.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's another thing. When I put up polls, I can almost always guess which one everyone's going to pick. And the ones with natural light always win. I was interested in this one because if it's a skylight, people love a skylight, right? So this one, I was like, will they go skylight? Will they go minimal? Let's see, commenters, B3 on this one. So yeah, popular one, that bottom one. I went to the top one. I actually don't like this color palette, but in terms of me being in a house, what a wonderful nook to be under these lights. In this one, I would, no matter what, be like, who's coming around this corner and going to see me in my bathroom? I would just be way too aware of it's too open,
I get that. So
too open.
You would have to know that you're in a place where that whole area back there is like fenced off or something, so that you don't even have to worry about it.
Don't even have to worry about it. Yep, yep, because that's the first thing that comes to my mind with like floor to ceiling windows. So I ended up leaning this way, but I totally see now that you say the cleaning of the rocks, I'm like, absolutely not.
I was stuck in a place the Portland remodeled home show, and they had black rocks underneath a bathtub. Actually, just posted that on my Instagram.
I saw that.
And yeah, cleaning it, I'm like, that would just be a bear. I mean, you could dust it, but like dirt and little bits would get down in there eventually, and that would just be no bueno.
No, yeah, no way. People barely clean their bathrooms now, probably. Like, imagine having to take out all the rocks.
Yeah. If it's like a day spa scenario where you literally would have a process, like, every 2 or 3 months, shovel them out, wash them out. People got paid to do it. Sure. But I don't want my own home.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you everybody so much for watching. To wrap it up here, Kristina, thanks for playing my game. I knew it'd be fun.
Love it.
We should.
I should actually options. This or that. I love your options.
Oh, good. I actually should get your opinion more often on Instagram. So everybody, if you like the polls, go over to Elemental Clarity's Instagram every Sunday. We do little voting, and then I do what's the word? Analyze or kind of talk through this.
Construct it
within the week. Yeah, and I talk about what's good feng shui wise and etc. So how else people know how to find me? How else can they get involved with you, follow you? We've talked about the podcast, but I'll let you wrap up how you want people to find you and even your realtor services.
Yeah, so my website is spaceandreason.com. My handle is Space and Reason, and that's in all the places. The Twitter, the Instagram, the Facebook, all of them. And then the podcast is called Home Space and Reason, and that's available at all the places. So even if you have a smart home, you can ask Alexa to play the Home Space and Reason podcast.
I was like,
while you do the dishes or while you weed the lawn or the flower beds or whatever. I love playing podcasts when I'm doing another thing. It makes me feel happy because the time goes by quicker when I'm doing those tasks that are.
And you learn something at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. And then you can even do the task. You can play the podcast episode of the task that you're working on right now. Like if you're doing laundry, you can listen to the laundry episode while you're doing it and maybe think about things differently. I think that's so fun. So exactly. I have plans on my Feng Shui episode coming out Monday morning. That is episode 65. So organizing is episode 45, scale, proportion, and art for your walls, episode 43. I mean, I have very specific fire pits. I have one on fire pits, episode 38. That's super fun. I have a special guest, Mike. He's from Cowboy Cauldron, company that makes these cool vintage iron antique fire pits. They're awesome. Anyways,
so cool.
lots of goodness to be had on the podcast. I try to make it very succinct and really respect people's time. And on that note, I will say, if you have any questions, you can always find me through Jeanette too. If you're stuck and say, hey, remember that gal you had on 18 months ago? I don't remember her name.
Yes.
We'll connect each other. We're always happy to put you in touch with the other person.
Love it. And then, like I mentioned, guys, stay tuned for her before and after feng shui video. So many layers. All of these are going to be so compatible. This video, the podcast, the video coming out. So thank you so much. Thank you all for playing. And we will see you next Saturday. And on Mondays, your podcast episodes come out Mondays. Wonderful. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.